You are listening to The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards, with Matthew Childs and Cindy Paragill.
Standards. Well, they affect all of us every day, wherever we go, whatever we do. By defining good practice, they help people, organisations, the economy and society to do things better.
And every year, standards-making bodies around the world publish thousands of them for all sorts of things. For some of the big stuff that affects all of our lives, like the Net Zero Guidelines, an international standard that helps provide a common reference for governments and industry.
And it's not just the big stuff, it's the small stuff too. There's a standard for pen caps, which reduces the risk of asphyxiation if pen caps are accidentally swallowed by children. Amazing, really.
And then there's everything in between, from standards that help organizations to protect customer data, to guidance on the right way to use AI in medical devices, even to the cables that charge our smartphones.
In fact, for you to be able to listen to our voices right now, you may be using Wi-Fi. Well, that's all down to the IEEE 802 series, international standards.
And standards like these are made by standards makers, tens of thousands of people from around the world who get together to agree good practice to the way things are made and done, all helping to make our lives easier, safer, and more enjoyable.
Hello, this is Matthew Childs, and this episode of The Standard Show is my conversation with one of those standards makers, Geraldine Cosh. A product safety specialist, Geraldine is director of her own consulting firm and a standards maker through CPIN, the Consumer and Public Interest Network, in the area of childcare articles. These are consumer products designed to help children who are 3 years old or younger with sleeping and feeding. And CPIN is an independent organisation supported by BSI and the UK government. For more than 70 years, it has championed consumer protection through standards. I spoke to Geraldine about why she is a standards maker, her proudest standards making moments so far, and what advice she has for anyone looking to become a standards maker. I started by asking Geraldine about the standards she works on and the consumer issues they address.
I think a lot of standards have a consumer impact, but not all of them. The ones I personally work on are the ones related to childcare articles, which are obviously really important because they are a vulnerable part of our society. So we need to make sure with the standards that are developed that they are there to protect those consumers. I also work on some other standards as a technical author, which help with product safety as well, but mainly product safety.
And tell me about those product safety standards. Give us some numbers here.
Oh, you want some numbers?
Yeah, we love the acronyms. Come on.
Impress you with some numbers. Okay, so PAS 7055 is about button and coin batteries. We actually have a CPIN rep, which is not me. I was the technical author on that, which is vital. Button and coin batteries have led to numerous fatalities and it is horrific. The impact when you swallow a coin or button battery is significant for a young child and it leads to fatalities and serious injuries. So that's one standard. I'll throw out some more numbers for you because I'm trying to impress you now, but PAS 7050 is about bringing safe products to market. So it's a very generic standard and we have a CPIN rep on that as well. PAS 7100, which is about recalls and corrective action, which is very specific. So when businesses need to take corrective action, when they realise they have a product that maybe is non-compliant or not safe, then they need to take corrective action and that's there to help guide them.
And take us inside some of the sort of conversations that you have, within the committee room. What things are you grappling with? What are you having a row about, I suppose, in many ways? Best way to ask it.
Yeah. Hopefully we're not having too many rows, but of course some standards it can get quite heated because the members range. Sometimes you could have 5 members on a standard up to 100, even more members. So of course the more cooks, it could spoil the broth per se, but it does depend, and it depends who the members are quite often. So specifically with PAS 7055, I have to be honest, we were all in there and we all knew what we were trying to do, even though it was from various industries and stakeholders. They all knew the importance of it, so that actually made it quite easy, but that's not the same with every single standard. So sometimes you might have differences of interpretation on clauses, etc., And those debates are healthy as long as they're respectful, which they should be, following the rules, because then that's where you iron it out before it then gets released.
Tell us about your standards journey. How and when did it start for you?
So I joined CPIN in 2019, so pre-COVID. That's really when it started, where I became deeper involved. But actually, I've been working in product safety for 20 years, so I've known about standards for the last 20 years. So when I worked in a testing laboratory situation, we obviously use the standards to test for products. So I've known about standards definitely for the last 20 years.
And what were your motivations for wanting to get more involved and actually make the standards themselves?
For me, it's consumer protection. So I'm a consumer. My parents are consumers. My children are consumers, even though I don't want them to be, but they drive what I purchase for them. Or now my daughter, who's 13, goes and purchases things herself. So it's about that protection for them, for everybody. It's not just children or the elderly. It's actually everybody in the consumer realm, and it's about protecting them and making sure that they have safe products fundamentally.
Now, obviously, you've been involved for 5 years now. Just wonder, are the motivations the same for staying involved?
For sure, yeah. It's very clear for me, which it not often is in my life, but very clearly that this is such a great organisation to be involved in. It's very satisfying. There are challenges, but that's what makes it satisfying as well. If it was really easy, then it'd be a bit boring, but you really know why you're doing what you're doing. And there's so many different standards in so many different areas. So if you're interested in sustainability, product safety, there's so many different things out there that you can get involved in and share your passions. I think that's what's important.
I'm keen to explore now the sort of difference you're making. Maybe talk us through some of your proudest standards making moments so far.
Definitely working on the Childcare Articles Committee, although that's a bit more silent in terms of being the consumer rep. You're not right at the front, but you're behind the scenes, understanding what's going on, the complexities. There's so many different childcare articles. I'm super proud of that and want to continue my involvement in that. But then definitely it has to be as a technical author on those 3 standards. I kind of go on about that a lot, probably too much, but that has definitely been in my career over the last 20 years, something I'm super proud of.
So what's next for you and standards?
I think to continue to grow in my role as a consumer rep on the Childcare Articles Committee. It's huge. So we're actually building a network of reps. So we have about 3 or 4 other reps now that are getting involved to support me, because I realised that it was a lot and I needed some support. And I'm really looking forward to, in 2025 and in future, working more and getting more involved on those working groups and the committees from a consumer angle.
Now, you've been involved in standards for 20 years now. I just wonder what you might say to anybody else considering getting involved in standards. What advice would you have for them?
I think you will have a passion, no doubt, in life, whatever that will be. There will be a standard that you can get involved in. If you don't know what that is, just contact the consumer team, so the Consumer Public Interest Network. Just reach out to them and say, this is what I really enjoy doing. Do you have a standard at the moment, or is there a committee that I can get involved in as a consumer rep? And I guarantee you there'll be one. There's even one on tea bags, right? We know that. We've had that conversation. So there literally is a standard for everything.
Now, like Geraldine, you too might want to share your passion and be part of the standards community, having an impact and making a difference by shaping standards for childcare articles. Or maybe you might want to create smarter transport solutions or help organisations to be more energy efficient. Or maybe you really want to make a difference in the field of medical devices or health and safety, or maybe managing food waste. It doesn't matter. Whatever your thing, get involved in standards. We welcome applicants from all fields, backgrounds and career stages. Our goal is a simple one: to have a balance of views around the table. So start that standards journey now. Details of how to do so are in the show notes. And the show notes are also where you can find details of our socials and all the other ways to get in touch with us here on The Standard Show.
You have been listening to an episode of The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards, with Matthew Childs and Cindy Paragill.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.